Our gospel reading comes from Luke chapter 21, verses 25 through 36. Jesus said, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth distress among nations, confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now, when these things begin to take place, stand up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." Then he told them a parable. "Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they sprout leaves, you can see for yourselves and know that summer is already near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Be on guard, so that your hearts are not weighed down with the disposition of drunkenness and the worries of this life, and that day catch you unexpectedly like a trap, for it will come upon all who live on the face of the whole earth. Be alert at all times, praying that you may have the strength to escape all these things that will take place, and to stand before the Son of Man." Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Daniel is a small boy, about 12 years old or so. Daniel is special for a great many reasons, one of which is he has the power of invisibility, and the other is he has the power of observation. Now, unfortunately, Daniel has these powers because he has the worst kind of parents that there are. Now, you all read the papers and watch the news. You see how horrible parents can be in our world, and it's a sad thing. But Daniel, he does have parents like this. And like many children of his day, because of his parents, he has the power of invisibility. Or rather, it is the power to be completely unnoticeable. If Daniel walks into a room, he knows instantly where to be so that no one will notice him coming or going. One day, after Daniel was black and blue from an accidental, so-called, fall down the stairs, Daniel decided something important. That it was better for him to not be at home. That no matter what, he would be better off if he left. And so he did, out to make his own way in the world. Now, Daniel lived in the big city of Chicago. And during the winter time, even Daniel knew that being homeless was not a good idea. So Daniel wondered where it was that he might go, where it was he might be, so that he could not be home and yet be safe and warm. It came to him. He would go to the mall. And so he did. Woodfield Mall, on the outskirts of Chicago proper. A warm place, a dry place, a place filled with people where it would be easy to be unnoticeable and invisible. So Daniel went. He spent the day walking among the shoppers, blending in, seeing what the shops were selling. He had a few dollars left, bought a sandwich, fished a used cup out of the trash and got a free refill, and so was pretty satisfied. Now as evening wore on, though, Daniel began to wonder, where would he sleep? Where could he be and be invisible, unnoticeable? He looked in the back inner workings of the mall. There were too many security guards, too many people, too many security cameras. That would never work. He wandered through the mall, looking at the shops, but they were gated. Looking at the nooks and crannies, wondering where it was he could find a place to sleep and be unnoticeable. At long last he spied just the right place. So once the announcement came, "Ladies and gentlemen, the mall will be closing. Please make your way to the exits." Daniel stood next to the Christmas tree. And using his powers of observation, at just the right moment, he slipped under the Christmas tree, unnoticed. Everyone left, and the mall was quiet. Now you might think that the mall is a quiet place, a place where someone could easily sleep throughout the night. But no, when the doors close to the public, maintenance crews, cleaners, great big vacuums all make their way out into the mall. It's really quite a noisy and busy place. But there, in the Ice Palace, underneath the giant Christmas tree, Daniel slept. And he slept better than he had slept, well, maybe ever, because he did not have the fear of his parents. He did not have to worry about what abuse he might suffer. Daniel felt better sleeping underneath the Christmas tree in the mall than he ever had at home. When he awoke the next morning, he saw the mall was filled with grandmas and grandpas and moms pushing strollers, going round and round in circles. It didn't quite make sense to him. None of the shops were open. But he was keen to observe that there was no one his age there. So he remained hidden under the Christmas tree. And then, when the mall opened, he knew it was safe for him to slip out back into the world. And so he did. And he did the thing that any 12-year-old boy would like to start the day doing. He went to GameStop. And he must have played video games for 45 minutes. But just before the clerk might notice him, he knew it was time to move on. And so he did. Now Daniel had spent all of his money the day before and didn't have any money for food left today. Digging through the trash cans, though might be productive, would be far too noticeable. He just couldn't find a way to get food, even though there was so much food and so much waste right there in front of him. He knew if he was to remain away from his home, he had to be invisible. And so, Daniel did not eat. And again, at closing time, Daniel gathered himself next to the Christmas tree, and at just the right moment slipped under, moved a few of the presents so that he was completely unnoticeable. And he slept. Daniel slept. The next morning, he was hungry. He knew he had to find food. But the mall just wasn't the right place to do that. Even though there was so much food there, he had to remain invisible. So, he ventured out. He ventured through the parking garage and out into the community. And luckily, not far from there, he found a parking lot full of cars and a church. He could hear singing, he could hear music. It smelled good, and so he walked in. Service was well underway, and he slipped into the back in his very unnoticeable kind of way, and sat there and watched the people. And just about as he was ready to leave, he saw up front a loaf of bread. A good, fresh loaf of bread. And he wondered about what that was. He noticed that on the faces of all the people in the church, that they saw that loaf of bread. But they looked at it with such hope, with such anticipation. He wondered about it. What could it be? The pastor then took the bread, saying, "This loaf of bread, common, everyday, leftover bread at the end of the night, on the night of betrayal." Jesus took the bread and broke it. He gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my body, broken for you." Likewise, after dinner, he took the cup. Ordinary, leftover stuff. And he gave God thanks that there was wine, blessing it. And he gave it to his disciples, saying, "This is my lifeblood, my passion for life, poured out for you. When you take this cup, do so remembering me." Come now, for all things are ready. Then the strangest thing happened. Very orderly, each person walked forward, broke bread off, dipped it, ate, and returned to their seats with a different look upon their face. So Daniel shared. He walked forward, he took the bread, he took the juice, and he ate it. And it was so good. And he sat back down. Well, and then again, before the end of the service, Daniel slipped back out. Back through the garage, back through the parking lot, and into the mall. In time for closing. And as the mall closed, once again in his invisible way, he slipped underneath the Christmas tree. He thought about all that he had seen and heard that day. And even though he was still hungry, he was satisfied in a way he didn't really understand. It was mysterious. The next morning, Daniel again, as he had the 2 days before, slipped out and walked in the mall with all the other moms and dads and kids. He noticed all the families, some angry and grouching at each other, pulling the little kids' arms along to hurry to the next store. Other families oblivious to temper tantrums that little kids were throwing. Other families quite content to walk together, taking in the mall, just as Daniel was. But the more Daniel thought about his experience, the more confused he was. Looking at the mall and all the people buying things just didn't seem to match the look on those people's faces as they waited, as I looked at that bread with hope, with anticipation, and the satisfaction, the contentment that followed. It was a mystery for sure. So once again, at the end of the day, Daniel slipped back under the Christmas tree and fell asleep, pondering yet again all these things. Now, if you would like to hear more of the story of Daniel, the boy under the Christmas tree, then you ought to come back again and hear. This is a part 1 of a 4-part sermon. Thanks for listening.